Hey guys, just here with Julian from Spartan Alliance. I've got Jackson on the other side. We're going to be talking about personal finances, investments, and kind of understanding how your business is going to move forward in the financial world and how you can really set yourself up for success rather than just hoping for the best.
I see clear, I see your face.
So my name is Jackson Milan. I'm also known as the Wealth Mentor. I am the co-founder and CEO of a financial services and coaching business called Aureus Financial. Over the past decade, I've been dedicating myself to really challenging the status quo of the financial services industry. Because what I've found is that financial services, not just in Australia, but most of the developed world, is based on products and transactions. And in a lot of cases, the industry is self-serving, trying to push their own agenda above that of the objectives of their clients. And there's very few people who have been able to claim being able to achieve financial freedom as a result of working with any traditional financial services provider. So as such, I've really tried to work out what's the problem that currently exists, where do people go wrong on their wealth journey, both personally and in business, and how can we simplify the journey and the language of money to help more people be successful and create the life of their dreams. So in a nutshell, that's me. I'm a best-selling author of a book called Enjoy the Journey that I released earlier in the year. It's a little bit of it's still something I can't come to terms with, that we got to international bestseller in 8 countries. So it just goes to show that there's people out there that really want this level of education and want to understand how they can build a better life for themselves. But it's just a matter of working out where they find the right info.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head there. Most people want a better life for themselves, but really for the most of us, there is an education process that goes alongside that or behind that, more importantly. And, I always use the phrase, we don't know what we don't know. So where would you, first of all, obviously, congratulations. That's a pretty big rap sheet you got there. That's a big nutshell. So there's a whole range of different areas that my brain was going here, there, then, I want to really try and keep it a little bit more basic because, where would you start? So we've got a business, we've got some money. Is it important? Do we need 50 grand to get started? Do we need 150 grand? How do we buy our first house? What is the best strategy? I guess I really kind of want to target the start of the investment process.
Sure.
Where's a good start? I'm going to guess mentality is a good start, but where would you start?
Let's start with the bare bones. And my structure and the way that I've built my methodology is around a self-assessment process. And I believe that we can be our own worst enemies because the way that we learn how to work with money and how we work in business and in wealth all comes from either our personal experience or from the people that surround us in our lives, whether it be family, friends, or other associates. And as such, we have this biased view of everything in the world. And it's very difficult to make objective decisions when we've learnt in such a way. So I've tried to create a methodology which I originally created to hold myself accountable. I come from pretty simple means. My parents were both blue-collar workers, never really had a great relationship with money. I had a number of defining moments in my life where I watched them fall into financial turmoil and really were in dire straits because of the decisions they've made in their life that had led them to that point. So I wanted to do things differently because I started seeing myself exhibiting these behaviors that I'd inherited from them. And there was a moment where I go, no, this isn't how I'm going to live the rest of my life. So I tried to create a framework which was based on 3 very simple self-assessments. Is what you're doing simple? So do you understand it inherently and can you explain it to anybody if they were to ask? Is it sustainable? Can you see yourself sticking with this strategy or what you're doing for the foreseeable future? And is it scalable? Is your strategy going to continue to work today when you're still starting out small? And is it going to continue to work when you've got a multi-million-dollar enterprise or you've got multi-millions in wealth? And if you can't say yes to all of those things, then you shouldn't do it. Mm-hmm. So what it comes down to is that when we look at our wealth journey, we need to break it down into 4 segments. The first one is defining the destination. Now, more often than not, people treat money and their business for that matter as the destination. It's not. It's just a vehicle.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going to go on a journey, you're going to go somewhere, what's the first thing you need to define?
where you're going, isn't it?
Exactly right. So then you can choose the appropriate mode of transport. So we need to define the destination first. And I think far few people try and spend enough time to define what it is they truly want, to paint the picture and the vision of what they're working towards.
Yeah, most would have had that very vague. What do you want? Oh, more money. Well, there's $1. There's more money. Now what?
Correct. Exactly right. And we get into this endless pursuit of money because it is a very valuable vehicle to allow us to buy what we want. But it's about the significance of what that getting what we want ultimately leads us to. So the second part is aligning with your purpose. So more importantly than just saying what I want, okay, I want to build a multi-million-dollar business. I want to have 100 staff. I want to be on the BRW rich list. I want a house by the water. It's about asking yourself why.
That language of money is so important, and most people just don't know how money works, right? So
Correct.
money, we should not be working for it. It should be the other way around. But most people don't have a strategy for that to even happen. And then our feelings towards money is very, very personal. Money and business and numbers don't have any feelings or emotions, but we definitely have emotions when we see our bank account going up
100%.
or down, right?
And look, most of us make financial decisions out of fear.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I definitely don't make good decisions out of fear. Because you always are in this kind of scarcity mindset where you're constantly fearful of doing the wrong thing, which ultimately leads us down a path that we potentially don't want to go down. So by firstly defining the destination and making sure that it aligns with who we really are, coming to terms with who we are right now and understanding the language of money, we can build a roadmap that allows us to have peace of mind and certainty about where we're going. And then the last part of it is about taking action. It's about having accountability either to yourself as an individual or have people that can hold you accountable to taking action. Because it's all well and good to have a great plan, but no one got paid for the things they started. They get paid for the things they finish.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, that's one of the biggest things that I guess you and I are dealing with dozens of people and dozens of businesses a week, it's that lack of action and kind of, like I said, that the money is so tangible, but your new car in 2 years is a great thing to work for, but your retirement at $1 million, $2 million is so far away that it's almost like not important until you get there and you realize,
Right.
holy shit, this is really important right now, you know? So what would be, obviously you're really playing the long game and really a mentality. What's some sort of tips, tricks, hacks, shortcuts, whatever, that can really kind of let you understand what's going to happen in the future and kind of make you realize that the future will be the present, you know, sooner rather than later for the most of it.
So first thing, when it comes to, I guess, understanding the foundations, right? I think most people tend to look for the sexy and sophisticated stuff, especially us entrepreneurs. We're always looking for the next sexy thing that's going to put us on the map and allow us to expedite that process of getting to financial freedom. But for most, whoever that happens to, they just got lucky. And for the rest of them, they basically tend to get burnt. So what this ultimately means is, and I adopted a methodology where I take the least amount of risk that I need to in order to get to the outcome. So the only way that we can work that out is to reverse engineer what we want. So our methodology is built around what we refer to as a wealth pyramid. And there's 5 stages on the wealth pyramid. Stage 1 is financial battle. And you can apply these stages to both personal and business as well. So financial battle is where there's basically more cash going out than that's coming in.
Basic survival.
Correct. Basic survival. And in some cases, you can't even meet your basic needs.
Yeah, that's right.
So financial battle, we're typically racking up heaps of bad debts. And a lot of startup businesses find themselves here. They're trying to keep afloat. They're trying to grow. Or as an individual, you've just bitten off more than you can chew. The next stage is financial comfort. This is where we're at a bit of a break even. We're at parity. We've got enough coming in to live a comfortable life, but we're treading water. We're not getting anywhere fast.
Yeah, that's my security. That's basics secure.
Correct.
Things are paid for. The future's kind of okay. I don't really have to stress about those bills. I'm financially secure.
Correct. The next one's financial growth. This is where we've got a good surplus, either in business or personally, and we're committing that surplus to be working for us. We're either saving it, we're smashing our debts, we're investing it back into our business or into other investments that are compounding and growing over time. Now, the big significant milestone is financial freedom. Now, financial freedom is very subjective.
That's right, yeah.
So, Julian, what does financial freedom mean to you? And I did post this up in the community, and you did post. And I know that entrepreneurial people like yourself are very clear on what financial freedom means to them, right?
Financially free to me, everyone's number's different. But for me, it's having too much money that I ever need that in my lifetime I can spend it. And, you know, in regards to spending habits, me and my wife have great spending habits or bad spending habits, depending on which angle of the bank account you want to look at. But both of us love to spend money. We enjoy the nice things in life. And I think that if, you know, you kind of spend the fruits of your labor as long as it doesn't cripple you in the process. But yeah, having more money than what I can spend, leaving a massive legacy for my kids is, you know, one of my big goals would be when my kids are 21 to give them $1 million.
Beautiful.
Unfortunately, I'm having a third kid.
That's going to be expensive.
So that's $3 million in 21 years that I got to give away, right?
That's all right. I believe in you, Julian.
Yeah, me too. So,
now,
but yeah, that's financially free to make sure that my kids don't have to do those massive hours. I think they still need to learn the processes because, you know, going back to previously, like, you know, we are definitely shaped and formed and from our education and experiences, you know, my parents, you know, worked really, really hard. And you know, they went bankrupt, lost their house. And that's had a, you know, in hindsight at the time, you don't really affect it. That's had a massive, massive effect on me in regards to kind of why I'm doing what I'm doing. You know, that has left huge ripples in my life and to make sure that never happens for my family, you know, so.
Well, that puts that fire in your belly, right? Because it's about not being able to admit defeat because you're constantly moving on in spite of it. And I think the key thing is that financial freedom, given that it is so subjective, we need to try and make it objective. So our 2 measures of financial freedom is having your forever home paid off in full and having enough investment assets or realizable or passive income that comes in that allows you to live the lifestyle that you desire.
Yeah.
And then the next stage is financial abundance. So this is basically the stretch goal. This is where you've achieved financial freedom, but you have money in excess of that you can do the things like you said, give your kids a kind of a nest egg, give them a head start, give back to family, friends, community, other things that you believe in that allows you to kind of achieve that level of self-actualization.
Okay, so that's one more. That's even one more step than I thought I had. So that's good.
And the reason why we need this is because this follows Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
right? That we cannot just jump forward 3 or 4 stages. And I think a lot of people get this wrong. I'm sure you're familiar with the typical mum personality that is selfless and they give everything to the kids. They give everything to everyone else, but they eat shit themselves.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So they've tried to realize this level of self-actualization that would be affiliated with being at financial abundance, but they're not living abundantly themselves.
Yeah.
So it's not sustainable. It doesn't tick self-assessment number 2. So once again, once we've got this frame, we need to work out where are we, what's the dream, but then how do we just get to the next stage on the journey and then reassess and then go again. So this is where business owners get things wrong. They tend to shoot for the stars without addressing the foundations. And where a lot of business owners find themselves in hot water is around cash flow, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's about keeping the tax man at bay, staying on top of their bills, paying staff, taking a wage, all of these things. So the first thing is about getting the right cash flow structure. More often than not, business owners could alleviate a whole lot of their stress and get a whole lot more transparency around the financial health of their business if they had the right structure in place.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, Julian, out of all of the clients that you work with that are business owners, how many of them are paying themselves a consistent salary?
Yeah, I'd probably say less than 50%, you know. Probably a good 25, 30% didn't even know what a break even was before I got involved with them, which, you know, as a mentor and a coach and a consultant, that's really dangerous. That's
100%.
really scary, you know. So, numbers are key. They might be quite boring, but, you know, non-negotiable.
Exactly.
Absolutely non-negotiable.
And look, we can sexy these things up. We can make them exciting. They're only boring because typically the person who's telling them about the numbers, i.e. their accountant, is boring. My old accountant.
What are you trying to say about the accountancy?
Oh, mate, my accountant would put me to sleep. It was like, it was like he'd had a full frontal lobotomy. And of course it's going to be boring. I talk numbers all day. And when he talks to me about numbers, I'm on board.
Yeah.
So we need to get people excited about this stuff because once again, the money is not the destination, it's a vehicle. So if we can link those vehicles to an outcome that this person wants or these people want, then we can get them excited about it.
Yeah.
So the first things first is that we need to follow the principles that we've learned through The Richest Man in Babylon. You need to pay yourself first. And there needs to be a structure in place that allows you to support this. So for a lot of my clients, whether they're in business, the first things first is we need to create a line of separation of what is the business's and what is yours. How many business owners do you know that are still going through the drive-through at KFC on the business card? That are paying the kids' swimming training on the business credit card. All of these things, just don't do it.
Yeah. Then there needs to be that is a huge one. You know, that was actually one of my points in my head to bring up that you need to understand. Like you pay yourself a wage, which can be the basics, and you know because you've got to make sure that your worth in your business is something, right?
100%.
So you imagine doing this work and you're not worth anything. You know, like. You have to be your self-worth over time. Now, there might be points where you can't take a wage. I've definitely had, times in business where, myself and haven't taken a wage for a little while, but there's a reason for that, making sure that if the business isn't doing so well, I don't want to be the massive, taking out $2,000 a week in my wage. I don't want to be that massive, drain pipe of cash flow that I can either take me, so much out of the business, or I can take a little bit less. To me, that's kind of
100%.
like, you've got to be a bit smart about that, but you still need to make sure that you're worth something.
Correct.
So how do you differentiate between, because you're bang on, how do you differentiate the difference between your money and the business money? And because that needs to be done quite early, right?
100%. And look, if, as Confucius said, best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, second best time's today. So if you're just getting started out in business, start with these principles. If you've been in business for a while, you're still not doing it, do it now. And the first thing you need to do is you need to do a personal profit and loss. And that's my word for a budget, because everyone hates the dirty B word, but this is about you doing what is the incomings and outgoings in your personal life that you need to live a comfortable existence. So
I even change it to a spending plan, because I don't like budgeting. I like spending. So change to a spending plan, and then I know what I'm spending, right?
Exactly right. This is about understanding what your life costs, and then therefore how much are we going to have left over to work with and plan with. So I've got a template I'm happy to give to you. I'm sure you can put it on the link to this, where people can get a personal profit and loss spreadsheet, and they can go through and just put all of the expenses of their life. And once we've got that, then it's about reverse engineering that. So let's say, for argument's sake, the bare necessities of everything costs $1,000 a week. We need to then work out, well, that's the net amount that we need to receive. So what does the business need to do to be able to pay that to you as a net figure? So the best thing to do, and a great resource, is a tool called paycalculator.com.au. It allows you to work out your tax based on how much the gross income you're paying to yourself. So that lets you know how much you should be putting away for the tax man, how much you should be putting into super, and then how much is the net amount that you should be paying to your bank account.
That's good. That's very good.
Once we've got that, strip out all of the expenses that you've got running through your business that shouldn't be there. The question you should be asking yourself is that if you were the CEO of a publicly listed company, would you get away with running those expenses through the business account?
Yeah. And the answer to that is, yeah, but it's my company. It's my money. No, it's not.
Exactly right. That's the reason why you pay yourself a wage, that you're providing yourself with the level of transparency so you can create a level of separation between the two. So you know the financial health of yourself as a household and then of your business independently.
So really it's just a bit of discipline in your business, which, you know, especially for sole traders, it's here and there, and there's money, and, you know, dealing with a lot of the construction industry right now. And that's huge like that. There's money coming in, they do a big job, they're waiting for the money, they're trying to do it. But you still got to make sure that you've got some sort of budget. And the difference that we've found that we work with these type of clients is that the feeling that you get as a business owner from doing this is incredible.
100%.
You know?
And what I'm going to share with you, Julian, if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen and take you through a diagram, because once again, when it comes to cash flow, whether it be personally or in business, it's 80% of it's about structure, 10% of it is about transparency, and 10% of it's behavioral. Now, if the structure doesn't exist, 90% of it becomes behavioral. And as we know, we're hardwired. So if we've got the structure in place, we can actually protect ourselves from ourselves. So I'm going to bring up this diagram for you, mate, and I'll talk you through it, which I can kind of help facilitate this conversation a little bit better. And this is worth its weight in gold. This is something that I've done personally. I've done with hundreds of my business clients that's helped them to get to where they need to go. So I'll talk you through this, mate. So the idea is that this line here is essentially the line of separation. This is the line between what is business and what is you. The aim should be that in business, you've obviously got what your revenue is coming in on an average monthly basis. And we have an operating account that pays for all of our business expenses. Now, typically we want to make sure that we've got a float in that account, because the idea should be that once we set up your salary, there should be no point in time, peaks or troughs or high seasons, low seasons aside, that you should go without getting your salary. So we can kind of work that out later on.
Yeah.
And what we then need to work out is how much do we need to put out of this revenue to put aside for GST. So obviously we should be passing on GST. An issue that a lot of business owners find themselves in is that they quote inclusive GST and they think that that full amount of money is theirs.
Yeah,
so a mentality shift that they can make is charge whatever your fee is, exclusive GST. So you're just passing on that expense to your customer.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the biggest things, you know, 2,000 businesses a year get shut down just by not paying their taxes.
100%.
The knock-on effect from not paying taxes and going on, you know, this, that, the other, and payment plans and those things can really take a big hit in the business. And it can really make you feel like, man, I'm working for this, but I'm working for the tax man. You got to understand that's not your money. That's
100%.
the big thing. You know, that's never been your money. It never was your money. It's got nothing to do with you. So don't complain about something that was never yours, right?
Exactly. You got to put it away, and we can whinge and moan all we like. The taxman's always going to come knocking. There's only two certainties in life, right?
Death and taxes.
So we have to put that money aside. So we can do the maths. You can use pay calculator. You can work out based off your revenue, what your costs are, what your average tax liability is going to be. And it's better to save more there than not, because
absolutely
that can be some forced savings.
Yeah, and especially as you run a sole trader or a small business, it's very unlikely you get money back. You know, I just had another company that we had a few years ago that we overpaid. We paid a couple of payments too much, and there's, you know, $6,000 coming back.
What a great surprise, eh?
Normally it doesn't work that way. Normally it goes the other way around. So, you know, that's and again, making sure that money doesn't necessarily go to the Bali holiday, but, you know, paying down some debts as well. That's really smart.
Exactly right.
Strategy.
So once we've got this and we know that we've got that float in our emergency operating account, then we work out, and we've done that personal profit and loss, we have our salary that comes and pays to you as a net amount. Of course, we're just talking about one person here, but if this is for a couple, it works exactly the same. Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to have all of our money coming into what we refer to as a hub account. The hub account's basically the operating account, similar to what you've got in your business. It's where all money flows into and all money flows out of. Now, the biggest problem
Yeah.
for individuals is that they don't segment their fixed or non-discretionary expenses from their personal spending or their discretional expenses. Now,
Yeah.
I know that for myself and most of my clients, the problem is not the fixed expenses. The bills, the groceries, the rent, the mortgage is not the problem. The problem is the nice to haves. And if we're relying on either a credit card or a bank account that pays for everything, we have an unlimited amount of supply where we can do a lot of damage.
That's right. And especially when you buy those new pair of shoes or that's something in half price, but then you pay it 17%, it actually becomes 250% more than when you bought it special.
Exactly right, mate. So we want to be ahead of the 8 ball. And what we need to do is, once again, in your hub account, you want to have an emergency buffer. And this avoids you ever having to have a credit card. You keep 10 or 20 grand there and that becomes your new zero. If your hub account falls below that number, you're in trouble. And that means that we only have to worry about one number. Now, we should have a debit card for this account and it should be labeled hub. I do this personally. All of my team does this. All of our clients do this. And this is life-changing. Meaning that if you're going to the grocery store, you tap the hub card. If it's a fixed expense, you tap the hub card. We then have a discretional spending account, separate account with its separate debit card labeled spend.
Yeah. That's my fun card.
This is the fun one, mate. And this is about the number that you put here is arbitrary. It's about you deciding how much you need every single week to go out for a lunch, to buy coffees in the morning, to buy some new clothes, to buy those new shoes, and have that transferred irrespective of your payment frequency every single week on the same day automatically.
Yeah.
So if it's $200 a week, that's fine. Whatever it may be, you to decide.
Yeah, I actually go through even with my sales agents, because they're kind of young, 20 something, and they start to make some decent money, you know what I mean? So for a 20-year-old making $3,000 or $4,000 a week, that's too much money. They're not worth that much money in the real markets, but that's a sort of income that they can actually generate. So what I say is you have your weekly expenses, your monthly expenses, quarterly and yearly, and just work it out and really dig deep because, sometimes we do these budgets, spending plans, whatever. And, we've forgotten about the registration once a year. We've
100%.
forgotten about the insurance. We've forgotten about, little tiny things, the rates that pop up every now and then. But, those, they're almost kind of quite big ones anyway. But the little tiny things or the quarterly bills that kind of, for some reason, the water rates, electricity and everything else comes at once, but our phone, we kind of remember that one. So if you can actually, your break even is probably a little bit bigger than what you want it to be.
Correct.
But that's kind of a good thing because that means you've always got money. And probably one of the worst things when you have these accounts set up and there's 0, 0, 0, -5, it's going to make you feel pretty rubbish. So
exactly right.
You're talking about having, 15, 20 grand in there, but it's really just a mindset of that abundance. But, if you've never had 20 grand in that any account, that 20 grand can, I'm loaded, but really what you're really not thinking long-term and sort of with success on your mind. You're really thinking very short-term and pay to pay. And that's probably why you're living pay to pay. So
right.
You gotta kind of step out of that. 20, it's not a number figure. It's a life balance of comfortability. 20 grand can go pretty quickly if there's some medical issues.
Exactly right. And I've had plenty of clients that have been in this situation, mate. And it's one of these things that once we set up this structure, that becomes the first milestone. And as you've rightly said, mate, most people forget about those things that sneak up on us and they end up getting chucked on the credit card. Or, for example, they haven't put enough money away for that holiday. They've then chucked that on the credit card and spend the next 3 months trying to pay it off.
Yeah.
So we then have a separate bucket just for that. This is the annual bills and holiday account where we annualize all of those expenses. We break that down into a monthly amount. And from your hub account, that gets transferred each and every single month automatically. So you're saving for those things in advance. So what this means is that if we've accounted for all of our fixed expenses, all of our personal spending, all of our annual bills and holidays, if this account is going up, that is our real surplus. That is the money that we have to work with. That's what we can use to reduce debts or build wealth or potentially both. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think having that long-term plan, there's a big difference between having a great lifestyle, which I'm all for, but actually building wealth and the difference between having a great lifestyle, the nice car, nice house, all your holidays versus actually building your wealth for the rest of your life to do whatever you want is a very, very, I'm not even going to say fine line. They're actually polars apart.
Correct.
I'm not saying, how would you kind of get around that? Because there's social pressures and social
Sure.
conformities of, we haven't gone on that many family holidays because we're trying to build our wealth and pay down debts. And,
Yep.
and really for the last 10 years, my money has gone back into my businesses rather than building my personal wealth.
Sure.
Because I think in business, if you make your business rich, then you can be rich too. But if your business is only lean, but you're rich, you probably at some point will fall into massive hole and you won't have a business, which means,
I agree, mate.
you know,
And I think that the most important thing, and one of my life mantras, is live for today and plan for tomorrow.
yeah.
Once again, we can't just expect that we live on cornflakes for dinner and put everything away for the future. But we can't just derive all the gratification now, because then we're going to have nothing when it gets to our golden years to be able to provide for us and give us the freedom to choose how we spend our time.
Yeah.
And when it comes to building wealth, there's 3 ways that we can do it. We can build wealth through shares, we can build wealth through property, and we can build wealth through business. Now, if you look at any rich list around the world, every single person on that rich list is a business owner or an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So that's, and you're right there. But I think it's about understanding what type of business you're in as well. So I think a lot of business owners fall into the trap where they believe that their business is worth a whole lot more than what it is.
Look at Shark Tank and Dragon's Den. My
Correct.
God. It's like, have you even watched the show before you came here?
Exactly
Like,
right.
I told you it's worth that much money. You're actually in pre-revenue asking for, was it something that I saw the other day? They've turned over 80 grand turnover, right?
Yeah.
And they're asking for 5% for like 20 or 30 grand. You're like, what are you talking about? How is your business worth $1 million? Where did that come from? Anyway. What campfire you've been too much?
Exactly right.
Something's going on.
And look, it's a bit of an ego thing, but the best thing you can do in business is work out whether you're in a cash flow business or if you're in a growth business. Now, if you're in a growth business where there is a tangible asset, a saleable asset, then by all means, double down, put everything into your business, because that is going to provide you with a platform to be able to exponentially grow your wealth.
Yeah.
But if you are in a cash flow business, that's not a problem. That's perfectly fine. There's plenty of fantastic cash flow businesses out there. But the sooner that you can come to terms with the fact that your business is just a cash flow business, the sooner you can actually start using that cash flow to make it work for you and start investing in other things that can allow you to build your capital value external to your business, or diversify into other businesses that can provide you with a capital value. A great example of that is construction businesses. How many construction businesses have you seen that have been sold for multiples of EBIT?
Out of all the businesses that are left, most people, I would say, a very, very high 80% plus would probably be setting up their business to just close down and finish off and
Exactly
hopefully
right.
pay out the debts of the business, which is kind of a very, very,
Sad, mate.
very sad, for these people that haven't paid off their house.
Yeah.
They've got, they literally just bought themselves a very, very stressful job and a
Correct.
very, hopefully they've got something out of it, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
That's not really why you set up your business. And it's
No,
not
not
due
at
to it's due to lack of planning, really. That's all it is.
We all get started in business because we're go-getters, right? We get excited. Like, I don't think anyone's gone into business to be mediocre.
Absolutely not. And definitely not to lose their house, right?
Correct. But life beats us down and we fall into this sense of conformity where we just live day to day. So you're right. It's about having the right plan. But in that example of that being in a construction business, I know plenty of great construction businesses that have come to terms with the fact that they are a cash flow business, and then they start converting that cash flow into buying assets. They buy commercial property. They build cash so they can pay for sites and reduce the level of risk. They start going into property development. They start diversifying. And because they've come to that realization early in the piece, that they've basically left the ego at the door, it's allowed them to dynamically evolve and stop limiting their own potential.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Mate, that's been a wealth. I don't know if there's anything more we need to probably go through at this stage. I definitely want to touch base a few more times, especially when it comes to the business side of things and probably separating the difference between a cash flow business and a growth stage business, or a business that's focused on growth. And kind of what differences are. And I also want to chunk down into sort of some of the investment strategies that you guys have and people can actually get started with. That's my coffee machine. And really to work out, where to obviously start. First of all, I think that budget or that, profit loss is a great start, and thank you so much for providing that sort of that resource. One of the biggest things also is just understanding that language of money and kind of how your relationship with money also and how that works, because that's an absolutely huge blockage, limitation, whatever you want to say, in regards to the growth of your wealth.
Definitely.
And just one of the, in final, is just the spending habits.
Exactly right.
That instant gratification because you felt bad, and that, is really not going to be long lasting. Whereas when you can, go around the world and travel properly and live life at the end of your life, and definitely I'm not a big believer of eating baked beans just to make sure I've got a couple $1 million in the bank. At the end of it, that is not my lifestyle. I still like to have some nice stepping stones along the way.
Exactly right.
But, you have to be intelligent when it comes to money these days. And if you're not, you need to find something that is. And you kind of need to go, right, I don't know the process. I'm not a professional. I'm not the advisor. You are. This is a plan you got to stick to. In final, what would be your sort of 3 key points that people can actually take away and really start today, to really give themselves a bit of confidence and a bit of hope and a bit of clarity into the future, and where they're not necessarily business, because I don't want to, sometimes we get caught up in the business side of things, but not everyone that we speak to is got to be involved in business. But what would be some, 3 takeaways, boom, and then finish up on that.
Yeah, these are good principles for anyone to live by. So the first one is take the time out of your busy schedule to define what you really want. I advocate making time at least on a monthly basis, at worst case scenario, at least once a quarter, to build your 30 or 90-day action plan for what you want to achieve. If you don't know where you're going, how do you know what path to take? You need to then be willing to come to terms with the often harsh reality of your situation. Leave the ego at the door, come to terms and be honest with yourself about what's getting in the way of you creating the life that you desire, and be educated. Be willing to go out and learn and basically embrace these experiences that will help you take, more action more confidently to help set you on the path for what you want.
Yeah. And then, in final to that is that you got to get rid of some excuses.
Exactly
I don't have any time. Well, everyone's got the same amount of time, and yet some people can be super productive and run 10 companies, and some people, can't even do a 40-hour work.
Find a way, or they find an excuse, mate.
Exactly. And that's that is literally the binary of success, really, isn't it? You can actually find it.
It comes down to action. And this is a marathon, not a sprint. We can't keep looking to win everything in the next 12 months. As Bill Gates once said, people overestimate what they can do in a year and us underestimate what they can do in 10.
Exactly, mate. Absolutely amazing. I'll obviously add that little resource down the bottom of the link.
Beautiful.
Thanks so much for your time. I hope you guys have got, a heap out of it. I definitely have got a few notes and a few, next stage steps that I need to take myself. And I think one of the biggest things is all learning. It's all growing. It's all developing. But I think, in 10 years time, we're all going to be somewhere, but the choices we make today will definitely determine where those 10 years is and how it actually looks. So massive thanks for joining us, Jackson. I know we'll be talking very, very soon. I look forward to, roles reversed next time.
Thank you very much, mate. I look forward to it.
Awesome, guys. Have an amazing day. Thanks so much for listening.
Catch you later.